Hey, fellow comic book fans, and welcome to episode 11 of the Brazen weekly comic book podcast. I'm your host, Charlie Chipman, and with me today, as always, are my co hosts, Dave Robbins
Hello, friends.
and Ben Peterson.
Hello.
On today's show, we have a whole lot to talk about, including Immortal Men #1 from DC, Crude #1 from Image, and so much more. So, Dave, what day of the week is it?
Today's Wednesday, April 11th, and it's New Comic Book Day.
I couldn't help but laugh through that, Dave. That was so creepy, dude. But it was good. It worked. I liked it. So, all right, another great week, huh, guys? A lot of
Certainly was.
yeah, a lot
Lots
of
to read.
interesting, yeah, tons to
Yeah,
read.
ton of stuff. Ton of good stuff, too.
Yeah,
Not only the number ones that I was pretty happy with, but some of the returning series I thought were worth coming back for.
oh yeah,
hmm
yeah,
But I think we wanted to start with Immortal Men as
oh
another
yeah,
new Age of Heroes thing.
yeah, definitely. Another book, like you said, Dave, from New Age of Heroes. I really enjoyed it. We have a whole new team that's not necessarily like a superhero team. You know, we have these immortals that have been operating behind the scenes, and I just thought that it was a great issue. I mean, it really worked. It was a very interesting introduction, right?
It was a great introduction, and I would say certainly at least on par with the Terrifics, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. If not, I might have even liked it better, but
Oh man,
I think it's a little bit more me. I know you like Terrifics, Charlie, but
yeah,
um,
I liked it a lot too. I liked the creepy tone to it. I liked kind of well, the timelessness, the immortal
mm-hmm.
aspect of these powerful beings in the background being there forever and not necessarily either being effective or all that involved, but nevertheless really powerful. I thought it was an interesting setup. I like that the teenager here is kind of interesting and not just a whiny jerk.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and hey, that's a plus. So
it
most of
is.
the time they insert these kids and it doesn't seem like it's an actual kid,
Yeah.
and it doesn't seem like it adds to a story.
Yeah, it's almost
mhm.
as though there's a young person added just to be relevant to young people,
Yeah,
you know? And I didn't feel like that at all with this one. And the book started out very strong. I mean, I was pulled right into it. We have this sort of like dark nightmare sequence. We're dropped back into reality, but soon, you know, we realize that there's other stuff going on, you know,
Mhm.
outside of this reality, you know, or behind it, I guess is the best way to look at it. And we have a lot of really interesting characters here.
Yeah, the beginning definitely sucks you in really
Mm-hmm.
well, even without like. There's enough action. There's a little bit of action, but it's not like a crazy action
Yeah.
beginning. It's just the story and just the dream and how they describe it. Just like the writing aspect of it, I would say, was so good that it just was like I was into it like immediately. So
Yeah,
I very much
definitely.
enjoyed that.
Yeah, James Tinian, he's a fantastic writer. You know, pulled me right in as well. And I really do dig the character design.
hmm
yeah.
I think that all of these characters are straight out of early 90s comics. You know, maybe it's Jim Lee, I don't know. But all I'm saying is the Infinite Woman is like a walking, talking Todd McFarlane action figure. So,
I'll give you the Infinite Woman. I
yeah.
don't
Yeah,
know how
I
I feel
like
about the
it.
rest of it, but I'll give you that one.
Yeah.
Well, I like Jim Lee's style. I always have,
Yeah.
and it's the bold kind of uh, superhero comics
Mm-hmm.
that looks exactly the way a superhero comic is supposed to look.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's very dynamic, whole lot of detail, and it's Jim Lee takes advantage of the medium. I think you know he definitely, you know, like you said, Dave. This is what a superhero comic book should look like. You know, it's just it feels so comfortable and so inviting almost. You know, when you pick it up, you look at the cover, you get exactly what you thought you were going to get in the book, and I dig that. Like I said, there's a lot of interesting characters. You know, I really dig what's his name? Ghost Fist, right? We were talking
Yeah,
about him a
Yeah,
little
Ghost
bit.
Fist is cool.
definitely my favorite character. Although I like them all.
Yes.
Yeah, they're all good enough characters and like put together characters enough that like pretty much stand on their own
Hmm.
without too much of a problem.
And they
Yeah.
feel like a believable team too.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. They definitely, you can tell that there was definitely the balance of a team being considered when they were put together. I really can't wait to learn more about each of the members of the Immortal Men,
Yeah,
because I feel like they're
you
all
get
going to
very little.
have, yeah,
Like,
we know almost nothing, but I think that they're all going to have rich backstories.
yep,
I just
yeah,
have that,
absolutely. No,
that there's going to be a lot of depth here, and there's a lot to look forward to.
because we don't even know how old they are because
No,
they're mortal men. I mean, they could be hundreds of years old,
yeah,
more. So it's very cool, very
hmm,
exciting.
yeah. And right now, I mean, I think Ghost Fist is definitely the leader, right?
Seems to be. Yeah.
But it's not. He's definitely doesn't seem like an overbearing. He's no Cyclops or anything.
Well, it's
He's
also like they question him too to some degree too. Like
yeah.
it's not like he's just like totally respected and be like, all right, we'll listen to whatever you say. It's just like,
Hmm.
well, wait, and so
Yeah,
yep.
yeah. And I like the design of the bad guy. I don't even know what you'd call them. The monsters in here as well.
I
They're
think did they call him like the bloodless?
yeah. I think that's what it was. Bloodless. They're pretty badass. They're like aliens from Alien. Like I don't know. They're these weird, creepy. Like I said, character design is fantastic in this book. Like
Absolutely.
it definitely looks unlike anything else. So I
Yep.
really
Yep.
dig it. Great book. Definitely going to keep up reading it. Right. I don't think that there's any.
Yeah, and they had just enough. Like once again, not to like dis damage at all, but they had a guest villain in this
Yeah.
case. Um, that it was just enough. It wasn't too much of like um, bringing in other characters before like it's set up,
Yeah.
as a comic book. So I thought that was appropriate and
Yeah,
nice to see.
it tied in some other things in ways that didn't overwhelm the existing story, and that's I appreciate that
It
because
felt.
I
Yeah.
want to know about these guys before I have to figure out the connections to some of the other stuff that's out there.
Yeah. It felt natural.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think one of the things we were talking about with Damage was it almost felt like let's put a familiar face in here to kind of I don't even know if I'd say to carry the story, but just to make it more interesting and more relatable and feel more familiar. And
or
that's not
even
what happened here.
yeah, or even just to get more people to read it. It's like, hey, you liked Wonder Woman? Here you go,
Yeah.
read it. And yeah, that was not the problem here. It
No.
was you're reading it for them and the Immortals.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So all
yep.
around, another great issue. I'm really
Another
looking
excellent.
forward to
Yep.
seeing what comes next, though.
well,
Hmm.
the second issue is always the thing for me
Yeah.
that seems to be the telling point as how the series might go.
Hmm.
If they can pull it off, then I'm pretty happy about it. But too often, it's just a pale comparison to the first issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, did you guys read Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern's Corps?
I did.
Certainly did.
Dark Star Rising.
Oh yeah.
Is
Okay.
it Rising or Reborn? I thought it was Dark Star Reborn.
No, it's rising.
Dark Star Rising is the subtitle
Hmm.
Oh,
of you
oh,
know
it is Rising.
Hal
Yes,
Jordan and the Green
it just
Lantern
says Dark Stars Reborn on the
42.
cover. Like,
I thought this was a good story.
Yeah.
An introduction to an old bad guy,
Hmm.
and that how would you say? I mean, I don't want to give too much away about the person of the Dark Star, but it ties in some good parts of the Hal Jordan Green Lantern Corps story, and then some stuff that goes back for years
Yeah.
in really a wide open galactic kind of looks like it's going to be a fairly extensive battle
Yeah.
uh, to
mhm.
come up, and yeah, I'm liking it. Yeah.
Yeah. The fact that we saw that we have the Dark Stars, the controllers in here. It's just it's gonna be, like you said, Dave, a huge sprawling, intergalactic battle. It's gonna be one hell of a fight.
Right. I mean,
And
they're not shooting for just one of the Green Lanterns. They're like the whole core is what they're
yes,
Yeah,
having problems with.
everything's on the table now.
Yeah.
The stakes are pretty high,
yes,
and
and
there's a real grudge match coming up
oh
here.
yeah, yeah. And you know what? For me too, what really works, like, this is an exciting story, but it also reads very well and it looks great. I mean, I know I've talked to you guys about this in past. Like, Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps is one of my favorite series that I'm currently reading, and it's been so consistent, especially with the illustrations. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
the book looks beautiful. I mean, and this is another one. I think any of the Green Lantern series, you know, you can really, an illustrator can really take advantage of the fact that you have all of these different races,
yeah.
and I don't know. I thought the book looked very, very good, and it's interesting. It's
Yeah.
very interesting.
Well, I mean, the artist has a lot to play with because we've got a three-dimensional battlefield, basically.
Yeah,
So a lot of things occur from panel to panel that can occur in an ordinary terrestrial story, and I think it's just wonderful the way the artist always takes advantage of that.
yeah,
It's beautiful and it's cosmic, and it just it defies gravity and all
hmm
the things that are supposed to happen when you're battling in space and you have superpowers.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And there was a lot of great layout work.
Yep. Hmm.
Book flowed very well, and this is, essentially it's a prelude to what's going on. This is the introduction of introductions, and I thought it was a very strong issue, despite having a decent amount of, like, I would say, heavy lifting to do. A few things we have to explain, that we have to get the ball rolling, but it was still very entertaining, and I loved it. Absolutely loved the issue.
Yeah, I liked it a lot too. I was very impressed.
Hmm.
And I'm not always the one who's on board with the standard superhero stuff either.
Yeah.
But this one I was into right away, and I really enjoyed it.
Good, good. And another strong book for DC. We got Sideways #3.
Yeah. Now we all generally liked Sideways to
Yeah,
start with. Um, Definitely was surprising that was it Kill Speed.
yeah,
Uh, she wasn't a quick villain that they got rid of really quickly.
yeah,
Yeah, I thought that was smart. I thought they made a couple of smart decisions with the characters
hmm
in this issue. I mean, she turned out to have a little bit more depth than we originally thought.
Hmm.
Sideways is making some mature decisions for change. He's choosing to protect people. He's choosing to keep his identity secret from his mom and the general public.
yeah,
Um, and he's trying to even connect with Killspeed a little bit, which that really surprised me. I mean,
yeah,
whether it works out, I don't know, but I believe it probably has something to do with how the other maybe villain, Tempest Fugitnaut, will consider uh, the life of Sideways based on his interactions with the world. And I think I have to say, in this issue, he's becoming a good guy that is deserving or starting to maybe show that he's deserving of his powers in a way.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Definitely. I think there's, it's highlighted his potential to be a hero.
Right.
To be really not just a stand-up guy, but to, make good decisions, but also have the ability to save people, because that's important as well. He might be, have the best intentions in the world, but if he's physically unable to, save his family and friends and, hell, bystanders, and the world, never mind, he's not really an effective superhero. So,
Hmm.
and like, I especially liked how in this issue we get to learn a little bit more about his riffs.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, his
Yeah,
powers, they definitely expand on them
yeah,
a lot, and they show the different ways. Then, okay, he can teleport from one spot to one spot. Now it actually shows you different ways he can use them,
mm-hmm.
and I think that, for me, really helps because before I was kind of like, well, all right, you can teleport, that's great, but like, what makes what's gonna make you a good hero in this case? Like, what can you
Yeah,
really do with that? But now it's showing like all these other things that he could possibly do with it, and I think that was really good.
yeah, yeah. And you know what else I did like, and I'm not gonna give it away, but we can see too that his powers. Think about how his fight with Kill Speed ends.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll
Yeah,
just talk about that. We'll leave it there. We realize that his powers are, interesting. There's a lot to them, but there's also the potential for them to be deadly,
Yes,
for
very
them to
dangerous.
really cause damage. And I think that's important. It's
Yep.
important to show that if he wanted to, he can really hurt people, or he can really, you know, I'm sure it's going to be, tear the world in half, that type of thing.
Right. I mean, why not? It's possible. Like it's
Yeah.
so.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. And I think that, like I said before, because part of being a good hero, like the fact that Superman, he has all of this power, all of this potential, and he has to constantly dial it back, just makes it that much more interesting. So I think sideways, we need that same type of, we need to learn more about his powers, about his abilities. And then we also just need to see him in positions where he really has to make a decision and where he really has the potential to mess things up.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah. Well, in this issue, he's trying to fine tune his use of the powers. He's being a little bit restrained,
mm-hmm.
and as a result, things don't exactly work out the way he wanted. And I think he's learning lessons quicker here than he had in the last two issues.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, absolutely. So, are there any other DC books we want to talk about, guys?
Uh, well, we did Eternity Girl.
Yeah.
Now, I did not read Eternity Girl, so I'll leave this one to you too.
Well, it's another Young Animals. I think Young Animals is one of those collections that you're either into or you're not,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
and it's kind of caught me a little bit cold from the beginning, and not just Eternity Girl, but most of them. And frankly, this one I found really confusing. I,
Yeah.
I didn't really, we talked about number one, and it wasn't my favorite book. But number two is like there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of internal story
Yeah.
that I'm just not getting. And I
Yeah.
and I don't know. I think it just has to do with the way I'm reading this.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it with a certain expectation as a typical superhero story, and it's not that at all.
Mm-hmm.
She has really enormous powers that she barely uses, but for the most part, it's this story of how her life has become really pretty horrible
Yeah.
as a result of her um, transformation.
Yeah. See, I think what the issue I'm having is I'm not necessarily sure what's going on. I kind of have an idea, but I also think that it almost feels like I don't know what kind of book this is. Like the creators are kind of unsure of exactly what they're trying to do, and they're trying to do a lot. So nothing is necessarily being done or being accomplished, as well as it could be. Um,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I can really blame the creators so much
yeah.
because I think that there's something very specific that they're trying to do.
Hmm.
I just think that I don't know if I'm there yet.
Yeah, I
Uh,
don't think so. I don't think so either.
but I compared. I mean, last time I talked about how ugly I thought the book was.
Yeah.
This issue, though, is not ugly at all.
No.
And what's happening is that there's this real difference between her mundane life and her superhero life, and even in the way the artwork is maintained and put forth. So I don't know. I can't. I'm not going to say that it's bad. I'm just saying that this is a more difficult read than
Yeah.
a typical comic book. So I'm not going to really bag on it that much.
Yeah,
Because there's
it's
a lot
definitely.
going on. It just struck me a little cold going in, and I feel like I'm playing catch up ever since.
Yeah, it's there's a lot going on, but I think this too might be one of those stories that, the big picture, the big payoff, might work well. This might be one that it's worth revisiting when the first volume comes out.
Yeah, we've been saying that a lot lately, but that may be true. But we can't use that as an excuse every time.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean right now like I'll say that from what I've seen so far, like I don't think the series is for me and I'm okay with at this point moving on and not reading it anymore. I feel like I gave it enough. I just want to see. I'm probably going to wind up giving it one more issue just to
Yeah,
see if it anything pays off. That's all.
there's a lot of pieces that haven't connected for me yet,
Yeah.
so I'm definitely going to read the next issue. Because I understand the attempt, or at least I think I understand what's attempted to be done here.
Hmm.
I'm just gonna, see if we get closer to what I think it should be or could be
Yeah.
in the next issue.
Yeah. Sounds like a plan for me.
Yeah,
But we also had some new series from Image start up this week. First one I really enjoyed was Crude. Crude number one.
yeah,
Mm,
So
Crude was very good.
yeah, there's a lot of emotions going on. There's definitely a lot of anger. I don't know if you guys read the blurb from Steve Orlando at the end of the book.
I did not. I typically don't do that
Yeah,
because I just want to read the book for what's on the page,
yeah,
not not the commentary.
yeah.
It's like the DVDs, or the
Yeah,
Blu-rays or whatever. I don't listen to the commentary until I've seen the movie at least two or three times.
yeah, yeah. I wanted to. I did read the book first, then I went to it just to see what Steve Orlando said, and it does make sense. He kind of just reaffirmed what I was thinking already. Like I said, this was a intense issue. There was a lot of anger in there, and he talks about that. But this is another series that I think got off to a really strong start. The issue got off to a really strong start, rather. Um, and there was it felt like a very well balanced, um, you know, issue in the sense that we were getting a decent amount of action, right?
Hmm.
And then a decent amount of story as well, and it was just a very well put together issue. Very
Yeah,
strong
it gave
issue
you.
number one.
It did give you a lot of story, and then I also like how it was just like, hey, like this person's been kidnapped, and now I have to go back to my old, assassin roots or whatever you
Hmm.
call it. Like it was a little darker than that, but
Yeah,
once again, it was in a. I don't want to say it was a good way. I mean, it's sad. It is a lot of anger involved, but
yeah,
like it was in a different way that was kind of in a way refreshing
yeah,
for me, and so it was really nice to just like. Once again, this is another one that I was just like, I wasn't sure on it when I started, like just because I didn't know anything about it, but it hooked it pretty well, and I was happy. Like it moved right along, and I was happy with it.
yeah,
Well, I think one of the things that we also need to talk about is this is a Russian story.
yeah.
It takes place. It starts out around the fall of the Soviet Union, and then fast forward to modern occurrences in a fairly broken society. And the guy brought out of out of retirement, let's say,
Hmm.
because of circumstances, that he would have preferred never occurred.
Yeah.
So there's this there's this dark Russian literature aspect
Yeah,
to
there
it,
is.
Mhm.
uh, that it's exactly what you'd expect. I mean, if you had to write a modern comic with some of the sensibilities of Russian literature to go by, you might come up with something like this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you, Dave. This is like, I can just, it's like exuding oppression
yeah.
and, very, it's true. Like, it's
Uh,
just a different kind of oppression. It's, you
I mean,
know,
I think I get what you guys are saying.
yeah.
English majors. But like for me, I get what you're saying. I mean, it does give you that darker, more oppressive like
Well,
society and lifestyle. And I mean, the whole book has that darker tone to it. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't. I guess I wouldn't put it in words the same way.
Yeah.
yeah, it's like the old Russian joke. Winters are cold, but at least our coats are thin.
Yeah. 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 It's, here's the thing. Like, I think that this book, right, this issue of the series, it's going to appeal to a wide array of readers because if you're looking for depth, it's there.
Oh yeah.
But if you're just looking for action and I don't want to say like a superficial story, but something that's just going to entertain you, but still feels grounded and authentic, like that's there too. This is one that I think as well, big picture story, it's going to make a great trade. But right
Yeah,
now, it
Oh
can
sure.
definitely stand on its own, issue to issue.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah.
just keep in mind, we're talking about the first issue here.
Right.
Anything could change.
It could
But
suck.
yeah, exactly. It could be terrible. It could completely derail after this. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah. For the moment, I'm looking forward to the next one,
Yeah.
and I think it'll be good. But
Yeah, I'm
fingers.
definitely, I'm really anticipating, because the story really is starting like at the end of this book. Like it sets up the series. It's not just, how do I say it? We don't even have a complete introduction to everyone. Clearly we're going to learn more about the protagonist's past as we move forward. But to me, this almost feels like a prelude, of some sort. It's like I said, the story now, once the protagonist arrives where he's been going to, where he was trying to get to, it's going to take off.
Hmm.
It's definitely going to, just continue to develop. So yeah, I'm really excited for issue number 2. I don't think I've been excited for a second issue, is this one in a while. So yeah, that was good, but that wasn't the only number 1 we had from Image this week.
Well, we had
Uh,
Dead Hand,
Yeah.
yep.
which also strangely starts in Russia,
Yeah.
but it's a different kind of story. It's also another more of a spy story,
Yeah.
starting out.
Very much so. Yeah. And it was very interesting to me. Like, cause I mean, not that it was a crazy twist at the end.
All
Like,
right, let's not get into it. That's
well, I'm not going to tell you the
that's
twist. There is
don't
a
don't
twist,
don't you dare
but
give
like,
that away because
it
that's a big one.
it was a really good one. That's true. I won't
Yeah,
say anything. But
But
yeah,
talk about setting up a second issue, huh?
yeah,
right,
yeah,
yeah. Like, it really, this one once again, this would really set up for the next one like
Yeah.
really well. But this once again, this was a good one to like. I read it and I was interested in reading it, and I
Yeah.
was like interested the whole time,
Mm-hmm.
and just I don't know, just like the narrating through the guy, I don't even remember his name, um,
Carter,
the Carter,
Carter.
yeah, like yeah, it was a good narrating through the whole thing that just kept it moving really well and explaining enough um, to keep me hooked in there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's definite suspense and intrigue, and um, we do see unexpected things all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, there's a bit of a flashback that's kind of interesting. Um, He's got a
There's a
certain
lot of things
kind of
there.
motivation that seems believable, but if you think about it really, it's a little odd
Yeah.
too. You know, yeah, yeah. I just it's not what I expected at all,
No.
but it's action packed.
Yeah.
There's a great deal of subtlety to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm just looking through it again, and I'm thinking, oh, wait a minute, there's something else here that I didn't think of the first time I read it through.
Yeah.
Which again, I don't want to give anything away, but there's a certain aspect of Carter that I didn't consider the first time,
Mm-hmm.
that I'm considering this time. That yeah, he's a little bit more interesting than I thought.
Yeah. Yeah. I
There's
think this
definitely
one.
more to it than I thought it was going to be in it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it works though. It doesn't feel like it's like you said, David, it's subtle.
Yeah,
So I think that the rereadability, especially of this first issue, is very high. Especially once you finish the issue and you get that little bit of
I know. Yeah.
surprise. Like, yeah, you definitely want to go back and read it again. But yeah, this is another good start. I think that that's kind of been a trend we've noticed lately, huh? All these
A lot of good
series.
starts. A
Yeah,
lot of good
we've had
starts.
a lot of really good starts, and then issue 2 comes, and that is the
It's the make or break for sure.
yeah.
And I don't know. I don't want to say like a lot of them have been disappointing me, but I feel like for
Hmm.
as strong as so many of them start off, I'm kind of surprised I'm not into more of them.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So
Well, this has got a lot going for it. The artwork, I think, is phenomenal.
yes,
Um, yeah, it goes into detail where it needs to get facial expressions and body language
yeah,
and those kinds of things. But then it does the big battle scenes really well as well.
hmm yeah,
Um, so yeah, and a great story, a great involved story
yes,
that makes me rethink what I originally thought about it.
yeah,
And yeah, that's really well done.
yeah. I'm
yeah.
looking forward to seeing it develop. I really am.
Well, speaking of a issue two,
Yes.
Gideon Falls. Um, I don't know how I feel about Gideon Falls, to be perfectly honest. Like,
What?
do you like it that much?
Yeah.
Like,
I do,
I'm
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you, you guys are weird. So,
Well, yeah, we know that.
That's okay.
like I did like it, and I
Yeah.
was interested. The thing is, I'm still interested in reading it. It's
Okay.
not really my like cup of tea.
So
Like,
what's the turn
but
off? What's kind of
I don't know. It's just not my kind of. I guess where I think Dave, you're less into that like classic superhero. I think I'm more into that classic superhero. So this is clearly not that. Um, but it's still like I'm still really interested in like figuring out like what the heck is going on.
Hmm.
Like, because you still don't know. Like,
Yeah.
what is the Black Barn?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
It's a
the deal,
slow
and it jumps
burn.
between,
Yeah.
yeah, and it jumps between the two story arcs as well. And this one, once again, as we said, a lot of it's number two. It's kind of make or break,
Hmm.
and for me, it's not my cup of tea, but it's made it. Like I'm
Yeah.
reading the next one for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. You kind of have to once you start.
Well, we don't know what this story is about. Is
At
this a
all.
psychological story? Is this a supernatural story? I mean, there does seem to be some kind of supernatural aspects to it, but we don't actually see the supernatural aspects of it.
No.
It's just hinted at, you
Yeah.
know?
And what
Um,
you do see could be like delusions and
yeah,
Yeah.
illusions. You have no idea.
and which person is the unreliable narrator? I'm not, the two main characters have things about, I mean, one of them goes to a psychiatrist and the other they're saying has a drinking problem,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
so
perfect.
yeah, so who do we believe?
Yeah. I mean, the way I look at this is the fact that we're asking questions and the fact that we're still interested, and we're unsure, like it's a success.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
doing something right.
Yeah. For me, it really works. I like, really, finding myself in the middle of a story that I kind of have to think my way out of as it progresses. Everything's not so clear, especially when it's a comic book. When you can get that depth of story, and Dave, you were just talking about, we have one protagonist that's going to a psychiatrist or a therapist, and the other one that's got a drinking problem, and I love the idea that we have unreliable or potentially unreliable protagonists here.
Right, we don't know. And I mean, the thing is, I'm even wondering, like, are the two story arcs even in, like, because I think there is that paranormal or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Are they even in the same time? Like,
That's a good question.
Yeah.
me almost like one's in the like a future and one's in a past kind of
Yeah.
deal. Like, so yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Well,
But and that last
yeah. Then
few
there are
panels are
hints to,
scary
like,
as hell.
one of the things is like the priest is talking on a payphone,
Yeah.
and the therapist is talking on a cell phone.
Well, to be fair, the payphone's in jail.
It's paper, exactly, and they're in a small town too that may not have cell phone service or whatever. So there are things that look like they may be strange, but there's a perfectly rational explanation
Yeah.
as to why they are that way. So it's like, okay, which way do I go here? What am I supposed to think?
Yeah.
And it's good. It's good to be that unsure of where it's standing.
Yeah. And Ben, you just mentioned it. The last page, or I guess second to last page, is
Yeah, it was
so,
creepy.
it's haunting. Like, I don't even want to look at it now.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I'm gonna have nightmares about this.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, and it's just, yeah, it's creepy. It's just
Yeah.
staring at you.
The
It's just,
longer you look at this page, the worse it gets. Like,
yeah, the less I will sleep tonight.
yeah, exactly. You know what I'm waiting for? Like the power to shut off right now, and then I'm just sitting here like, guys, are you still there?
Or like a
Guys?
screaming noise, like there's that thing where you're like,
Yeah.
look at this picture, and then all of a sudden it's a different picture. It screams at you.
Yeah.
That's what I'm waiting
So,
for.
so like, I'm pretty sure, and not to give it away, but that this last page, the thing on this last page, is what introduced what day it is on the video. It's Wednesday. I mean, it came right out of this book, so uber creepy. And yeah, but no, this was a great second issue. A lot of depth. I think we're leading up to a major holy shit moment.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen once, and that should be typical whenever we have these two stories. Once they converge, if they converge, which I think they're going to very soon, it's definitely going to be some sort of an epic, like I said, holy shit moment. And I cannot
you
wait
say
to
very
see.
soon, like next issue, or like next two issues. Like, I don't feel like it's going to be next issue.
No, definitely
feel
not
like
next issue. Yeah, I'd say probably 4 or 5. Soon, in terms of we're sitting on the edges of our seat right now. You know what I mean? It's gonna feel like forever, but in comic book years, it's gonna be soon. So
Cool.
I'm looking forward to issue 3 and 4 and 5, and even though the story hasn't taken off, I think, like I said, I think what the story is going to, my definition of taking off is going to be that spot where the two main stories converge.
Yeah.
I think once that happens, we're going to be blown away, or at least I hope so, because if we're not, it's going to be like
A huge letdown.
oh my God, the disappointment. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even want to think about it. But
Well, for me, it definitely succeeded because once again, it's not my kind of story, but I'm still so into it that I have to keep reading,
yeah,
which
Yeah.
means it's needed in my book.
Yeah.
So that's a success.
yeah, I completely agree. And for me, this is the kind of comic that I would look for, and it's just checking off all the boxes. But another one that checks off all the boxes. How about Bloodshot Salvation this week?
It continues to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dave. What was you saying?
Yeah, I was blown away by the last issue,
Yeah.
and had I never read the last issue, I would have been blown away by this issue. But almost anything imaginable would pale in comparison to the last issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
No,
this
this
one
this
takes a
issue,
different direction, and I think they do it deliberately with all the lack of visual um, keys in the last issue.
Hmm.
This one kind of goes overboard with the
right?
art,
This is the opposite.
which is great.
Oh
It's just
yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. I think that it's a great spot. Because Bloodshot's still in the dead side.
Right.
Perfect opportunity, perfect place, like you said, Dave, to just kind of go overboard and just show off those visual, show off the illustration muscles and things. It's a beautiful book, absolutely fascinating. There's so much to look at, so much going on. It's great, and like you said, it's really interesting after reading it after issue. What was this is number 9, so after issue number 8. Just very, very interesting. And, it really, the pacing was great. I really enjoyed the pacing of this one.
This is
Moved,
good, and now it also links up with Shadow Man
yes.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, it did. We knew that in issue 6.
Mm-hmm.
Did
Yeah.
issue
Yeah,
6?
Shadow Man was kind of opened the door to Deadside.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Um,
may not have read
yeah,
issue 6.
so we knew he was there, and it takes place. It starts out there in New Orleans,
Yes.
where Magic and Ninjak are waiting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's tying the Valiant world together in kind of casual ways,
Yes.
Right,
which
it's
I
never.
think is kind of cool.
Well, this one helped move the story along,
Yeah,
so it wasn't like an awkward moment. It was like, hey, this is going to help you move the story, and then you're good. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was an appropriate amount, just like um, we've been talking about all night, really.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Deadside's a big part of the Shadow Man is the Shadow Man world. So it is important that he make an appearance, but he doesn't take over the story. He just points the protagonist, Bloodshot, into the right direction, which is great. And then he steps out of frame to make a really interesting story. And then at the end of it, we have another introduction to a further aspect of the Valiant world, which we really have no idea which direction that one's going to take,
Yeah.
too. So
Yeah. There's a lot of potential moving forward with this series. We're covering all quarters of the Valiant universe.
yeah,
And it's interesting. It's very interesting, and it works. Like you said, Dave. There's these, casual involvements from other characters, and it works. And it's not, even though there's a lot going on. There's a lot of story here.
yeah.
It's not overbearing. It's not. There's not too much. It's still a very enjoyable book.
Yeah, and it's all callbacks to something else. Why is Jesse the daughter sick? Well, that goes back to some of the conspiracies in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now we have a little bit more about the conspiracy that's going to be there waiting for him once he finally gets out of Deadside.
Yeah.
It's really nice the way the pieces are fitting together, and they don't seem forced, and they all exist in the same world, even though the tone of these different stories are different. I mean, Shadow Man's a supernatural story. Ninja K is a espionage story. Bloodshot's a super soldier.
Yeah.
So they're different kinds of stories that all exist in the same world, but they make sense together, and I think that's a valuable
Mm-hmm.
accomplishment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. They surprisingly work well together. It's great, and it feels right. It feels authentic. And I've talked about this before with the Valiant titles. How when we have a story that involves multiple series, multiple characters, it never feels like any sort of a pitch, like, hey, here's this character that you might not have heard about. It just works. It feels very natural, very authentic. And this was another issue that has me eager to see what happens next.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. No, I'm totally on board with Bloodshot,
Hmm.
which is great. It's great.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of story. I'm very pleased with what I'm seeing with Valiant over the last few titles.
Oh yeah.
The artwork. This is contrary to your usual preferences of
Yes.
comic book superhero type art.
Hmm.
This is more to my taste.
Yeah.
The more watercolor, pastelly looking line drawing type stuff. This is this doesn't look like a comic book.
No.
This looks like the whole, I don't know, what would I call it? The frontispiece of an old book or something like
Yeah.
that. It's just, yeah, these are a collection of watercolors that just happen to fall together as a pretty interesting comic book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely another good one. Like you said, Valiant, everything that I've been reading so far, I've been pleased with. Haven't been disappointed with any of the titles. And this is another one that's just great story. Um, but how about we go from intense and whatever, talk about something that was a little bit more fun. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles this week.
All right.
I mean, I don't know. This was issue 81, right? Yeah, 81.
81. Yeah, I have to go back and read it again.
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
it was a
I,
lot of
I
there's a
like
lot going on.
I
There's a
liked
lot
it a
going
lot.
on here.
yes.
Uh, I enjoyed it, but like when I first read it, I was like, what? And
Yeah.
so I had to go back and read it again. And I'm like, oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Like I got a little bit more of it now that's going on. Like just a lot of twists and turns. Well, not twists and turns, but a lot of differences I
Well,
wasn't expecting.
a lot has happened in the world that the turtles live in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very true.
There are, well, the world was in peril, so certain alliances of convenience or whatever may have occurred that caused strains in relationships, and now there's this ruined Hulk that has of a world that has a completely different peril
Mhm.
that they're not going to be able to handle in the same way. You have the uh, the side characters like Casey Jones and April and Splinter uh, having their own stories that are really interesting on their own.
Yeah.
In some ways, the Turtles really don't have a lot to do in this issue,
Yeah.
which is great.
And you know what else for me too? Like I haven't read that many Ninja Turtle comics. I've dabbled here and there. I love the movies. you know, so when I picked this one, like I'm really happy that I picked this up to read it, and I'm kind of getting back into the Ninja Turtles because this was completely exceeded expectations for me.
Well, this was, to me, was a callback more to the original Turtles, the
Hmm.
old black and white Turtles, where the characters were all problematic.
Yeah.
You know, they were mutants, and apart from the world. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, Casey Jones was a bit of a sociopath. April had her. April seems to be a bit of a different character here now, but and Splinter seems to be a little bit different now too. But
Very much
there's
so.
this darkness in the world
Yeah.
that has always been there, and now they're completely embracing it, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
It makes it a much better story,
Hmm.
much more interesting than some of the more you know children oriented stories.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think it definitely worked, and it was a lot of fun for me. And I think it's gonna, as this one continues, it's just gonna be even more fun. I'm really happy that I'm reading this again.
Same.
So yeah,
Yeah,
but
no, it definitely is a good jumping on point.
yeah,
If you wondered what the turtles were up to lately, it's a good place to start.
It is. It
Yeah, I
really
think
is.
this good
Yeah.
story. Looks like there's a lot going on. There's depth to the characters. Um, yeah, I would recommend this as for anybody who's curious about what's going on with the turtles. A good place to get back into them.
Yeah, definitely. This is a good jumping on point. And again, I mean, for the most part, I mean, everything we talked about tonight, I think we were relatively satisfied. You know,
Mm-hmm.
this was a
This,
pretty damn
yeah,
good week, right?
very much so. This is
Yeah,
a great.
I mean
So,
there were other issues that we didn't talk about,
mhm.
other titles we didn't talk about, but yeah, by and large, yeah, it's hard to tell which would be like say my favorite
Yeah,
or say a pick of the week.
yeah,
But hey,
yeah,
you guys want to do pick of the week this week?
yeah. Sure. I mean, I'll throw one out there.
Ooh,
Okay.
I mean, so I'll start it off. We've already talked about it, but I definitely think because it is a pretty good jumping on point as well. Hal Jordan in the Green Lantern Corps would have to be my pick. Like I said, we did talk about it, but you know, like I said before, it's wonderfully written and illustrated. The story is one that is going to get, exponentially more intense as it continues. There's great potential here, and I think that it is a solid jumping on point. You know, it's a story that you want to find yourself in the middle of, and yeah, I mean, I can't recommend it enough. So my pick of the week is Hal Jordan in the Green Lantern Corps number 42. Ben, what do you got this week, sir?
just what we talked about. I'm going to say Immortal Men, number one. I
Yeah,
really enjoyed it. I think it's a great one. Um, I think people will enjoy this one. It just gives you enough backstory with this one. So at least as a episode or issue one, I think it's a great one, and I think if you've been any sort of fan of the new age of heroes here, this is another great
hmm,
addition to it. So
definitely,
Mortal Men.
definitely.
I think I'm going to go with the turtles
Really?
because I think it was something that surprised me more than anything. I mean, I love Bloodshot. I loved Immortal Man, but the Turtles was something that exceeded expectations. I already knew that Bloodshot could be great. I already knew that New Age of Heroes could come up with something good and surprising. Uh, hadn't been basically avoiding the Turtles for a really long time,
Yeah.
and now back looking at it, it's like, hey, this is something worthwhile. So yeah, I was real happy about that.
Good, good. Well, I'm glad. Like I said, guys, another great week. And with that, that's the end of the show. So make sure if you're listening, you hit that subscribe button below so you don't miss an episode of the Brazen Bulls Weekly Comic Book Podcast. And until next time, folks.
Adios.
Bye.